Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so I want to talk about Ana Kasparian. I haven't talked about her in a while. I think the last time I said anything about her was when she talked to Tucker Carlson and had kind of a fluffy conversation with him. But recently she had this moment where she kind of went viral, and it's painting a picture for me. There's a broader picture being painted. So first of all, the first thing that has happened recently is that Ana Kasparian has been more of a vocal advocate in favor of Palestine. She's been going on programs like Piers Morgan's show, CNN, and other places to make the case for Palestine and also just make the case for not sending money to Israel. And so she's been a valuable voice on that because she's been very sharp. She's been uncompromising, talking over Zionist ghouls and not allowing people to try to equivocate about the horror that Israel is currently and has been committing. But she's sort of framing it more in this like America First perspective, like, you know, I want to spend the tax money in my country and not spend it to a foreign country. So she's still doing this thing where she's like appealing to conservatives a little bit. And the reality is on Israel, there's opportunity to do that across the board, especially young people are questioning Israel more and more. On the right, that definitely delves into some genuine anti-Semitism because people are not interested in like the power dynamics between Israel and Palestine or the nature of imperialism or of the Zionist project in general. If it goes beyond, I don't want to give America's money to Israel, then it probably goes into this sort of like world controlling type of conspiracy. So it's a weird space to try to get into, and that's what it seems like TYT has been doing. So then you have this thing with Jillian Michaels where Ana Kasparian was co-hosting along with two other female co-hosts this show called Her Take. So Jillian Michaels, Ana Kasparian, and two others were all sort of like equals, but Jillian Michaels was the one who was the headline of the brand. And that was the show that I really didn't have much interest in covering it. I covered it when they first announced it, but it wasn't a particularly interesting show. But what happened is Jillian Michaels ended up walking off one of the episodes in mid-conversation because Ana Kasparian wouldn't stop talking about Israel. And apparently behind the scenes, Jillian Michaels had said that she didn't want to talk about that much, and they had agreed that in that segment they weren't going to, and then Ana started going off on a tear about Israel, and so Jillian Michaels walked off. So I was conflicted about that because I think Ana did it right, and I think in general it's good to like chase away people who want to take the Zionist angle, chase them away from the microphone. That's fine. But I also kind of related to Jillian Michaels in that moment because the thing that I have been seeing from Ana is that she just seems unbearable. She seems unbearable to work with, and so I think just as much as like Jillian being kind of not that informed on the issue of Israel as well as just a Zionist, she also was probably just fucking sick of Ana. And so she walked off, and the show is continuing with Ana, Lindy Lee, and this other lady who I don't really know. And it seems like Ana is becoming more of like the top dog there. It seems like PBD, Patrick Bet-David, who is the owner of the company that's putting on this show, is rewarding her for the fact that she got Jillian Michaels to quit, essentially. And she's the one who is still there, so she's kind of becoming the more prominent voice there. And so all of this adds in with the fact that there's always been a little bit of tension underneath the surface with her at TYT. Doesn't really seem like she wants to be there. Her and Cenk get into it all the time. And then there was this weird moment the other day on the show. They were talking about Candace Owens' latest theory that Charlie Kirk, thought Israel was going to kill him or the Israel lobby was going to kill him before he died, whatever. That's a whole other subject. They've been talking about it a lot. Tucker Carlson's programming. They've been talking about it a lot. And so they go on this tangent about anti-Semitic tropes, ironically, and how they're sort of weaponized to shield from criticism, etc. And then Ana does this weird thing, this weird like bit or gesture that has gotten her in a little bit of trouble, at least made her go kind of viral, and has some people raising their eyebrows. So let me play this clip for you. I'm going to play enough of it so that you can get the full context of like what was being said and where they went with it afterwards, and then I'll get into my thoughts about it.
Charlie in those messages says they're confirming the stereotypes, right? So now I disagree with that. I want to make an important distinction. So the problem with stereotypes is that they're applied in a blanket way to everyone in that category, right? So for 99% of Jewish Americans, Jews, etc., Mossad's not calling them, Bill Ackman's not calling them, they're not part of any propaganda outlet, etc., right? They're just normal people going about their lives. But is there a group of folks who are pro-Israel Zionist zealots in this country who do bully, intimidate? And I think they're actually using the tropes as shields. They're thinking, I'm gonna go do that thing, but I can't be criticized for it, because if I'm criticized for it, I'll just say you're an anti-Semite and you're saying it about all Jews. So I'll use other Jews as human shields. And so I'll just do every one of the tropes because you're not allowed to criticize the tropes. Now, the other 99% aren't doing that at all. Okay, so don't take it out on them, right?
It's just the billionaires in America.
Yeah, but kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, Larry Ellison, Bill Ackman, et cetera.
It's the Ellisons snatching up, social media platforms, CBS, installing Barry Weiss as the editor-in-chief of CBS News. Are you kidding me right now? You think we don't see what's happening? You have David Ellison now making a play to buy CNN.
Yeah.
You probably didn't like Jeremy Diamond's reporting, did you? Anyway, it's disgusting. What's happening right now is so utterly disgusting and so brazen, but we're supposed to sit here and pretend like it's not happening. Yeah. Oh, it's a trope. It's a trope to acknowledge that this is happening. Okay, great. I guess I'm repeating an accurate trope about billionaires in America violating the rights of Americans, the free speech rights of Americans, destroying our already super questionable media, news media. It's just pathetic.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's do the throat clearing so no one calls us bad names. They're gonna call us the bad names anyway, Cenk.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah. Look, so last thing on that, and then we'll get back to the main thing. So I've talked a lot about my Jewish friends, family, etc. Your best friend's Jewish.
They don't care.
No, my point is, did Larry Ellison or Bill Ackman or Netanyahu call her and say, hey, are you okay with this?
Larry Ellison can tell me how my ass tastes.
Yeah.
Okay, how about that?
Yeah,
all right, disgusting, weird Oracle founder going around talking about like, yes, we're gonna surveil everybody. Everyone will be on their best behavior. Yes, you're a freak. You're a total creep.
Okay.
All right, total creep.
So my point is, do not put Larry Ellison's actions on our friends.
No, I don't, because I'm not an idiot. Okay, I don't conflate a nation state with an entire group of people who have no say in what's going on in Gaza, no say over what these disgusting billionaires in America are doing. No, I don't conflate the two because I'm not stupid and I'm not hateful.
All right, yeah. So I mean, my first thought about that is that that's weird. It's weird as fuck that she did that. I don't think she's anti-Semitic. I don't think she had anti-Semitic intentions when she was doing this. I don't think she's an anti-Semitic person in general. Anyone who aligns himself with the left, even if it was just previously or historically or whatever, usually anti-Semitism is one of the things that you fight against. And so to me, anybody who has been aligned with the left has some more credibility on that. Whereas, like I said, on the right, criticism of Israel, it does delve into anti-Semitism a little bit faster. That being said, I think that what's been going on with Ana lately is that she seems to be fully driven by this rage. She has this visceral rage that's like bubbling underneath the surface, and it has become the most prominent feature of her commentary over the last several years. I think she views it as one of her most valuable assets, if not her main asset that she has as a commentator. So she's been leaning into it a lot. And it started with, this tirade against trans people because she didn't want to be called a birthing person, wherever she got that from. And then you've heard it a little bit going against homeless people or crime, feeling like crime should be better handled in the city that she lives with. Again, making observations, but doing so in a way that carries this visceral rage that seems hard to interpret it any other way than bigotry. And so then, she's pivoted to doing mostly Israel criticism. She still does commentary about other stuff. And again, this angle of we shouldn't be sending our money over there, blah, 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 still does seem like she's trying to pivot center right, but with very sharp critique of Israel. And for the most part, I think that's been above board. She's been on CNN going against people like Ben Shapiro and other Zionists, again, on Piers Morgan, and doing a good job, like not taking any bullshit from them. And so I think that was a good place for her to be targeting her rage. And so that's why I kind of wasn't saying anything. I was letting her do her thing. She's, again, not that interesting to me, but at the same time, I thought that was a good use of her skill set. But here is where it gets a little bit weird, because I don't think that she had bad intentions when she did that. And she has come out since and said she's being urged to apologize and she refuses. Again, this went viral. A lot of people were talking about it. Even Nick Fuentes, had a little bit of a cheeky something to say about this. So like the echoes of this gesture she did have not been lost on people. And all I have to say is that if I saw myself doing that on camera, I would be like, what the fuck? I'd be like, what? How did I get there? Right? Because again, even if she doesn't have bad intentions as she's doing it, she didn't mean it to look the way it did. I still think you have to have some self-awareness to say that looked crazy. And not only did it look crazy, but because of the context of what I was saying, doing a gesture like that, it's kind of unacceptable. Like, I would not find that behavior acceptable in myself. And that's the thing that I find troubling, because this is something that I myself would say, the critique she's making here. But if I found myself behaving in the way that she's behaving while doing it, I would have to question where I was getting this stuff from. Am I allowing myself to get worked up over things in a way that like my emotions are being used? Because that's how this bigotry works. And there's probably no better example of it than this, because even if Ana did not mean this in an anti-Semitic way, the anti-Semitic right is definitely taking it as a signal to them, and even potentially an invite into the audience of the Young Turks, that this is the kind of behavior that you can expect from them and from Ana specifically. And so it's more than the substance on this. The behavior is what I find a little disturbing. And it goes into her other behavior. It's just vitriolic, venomous rhetoric and behavior. And I think in some cases it can be targeted in the right way. But I think in this case, what she did was she stepped all over her own point. This looks horrible. And she did it in front of the TYT logo, on a live stream, got blasted out, it went viral. And they're actively making the point that anti-Semitic tropes get used to kind of dismiss valid criticism. And I think not on purpose, but for some reason, Ana chose that as the moment to do this weird gimmick. I've never seen her do any act out on this show. Maybe I'm wrong, but she's not really a comedy type. So this was really something that she locked into, and it's the vibe of it, man. The vibe is off. And, amongst comedians, amongst people who do sort of like performance for a living, or even somebody who does a more comedic take on the news, I could give some leeway, you know what I mean? To like, this looks a little tropey, this looks a little weird, one direction or the other. But I mean, Ana presents herself as a serious person. And this attitude that she's had lately of like, I'm not going to back down, I'm going to say whatever the fuck I want, and I'm going to put it out there, and no one's going to tell me shit. In some ways, I relate to that, because I think in 2025, that's kind of almost the only way to survive, is you just have to never back down. You have to double down, especially if you're, going against Israel, the Zionist lobby, etc. They're going to throw all kinds of accusations at you. And just in the political world in general, all kinds of accusations are going to get thrown at you, and you just have to not back down. So I relate to that. But I also think the lack of self-reflection, given that she is a public figure and she's trying to make a point, and she ruined her own point by doing that. She made herself look awful, and then she went viral for completely the wrong reason. Whereas if she hadn't done that, no one would have cared about this statement. It would have flew. And yes, she's correct that people would accuse her of anti-Semitism anyway, but she wouldn't have given them this perfect bait to do so. That also just happens to signal to Nick Fuentes and his audience That's troubling. If I did something on camera that made Nick Fuentes think that I was kind of aligned with him and made people on his side of the spectrum start to get excited, that would be troubling to me. And honestly, when it comes to Cenk, I think he should fire her for this. I do. And I'm not the type of person to advocate for somebody being fired. That's not my favorite type of power structure. Maybe the more appropriate way would be for a vote to be held or something like that. I don't know, in a mutually owned business. But the reality is TYT is not run that way. It's a business that's owned by Cenk. And Ana is one of his main, most reliable contributors next to his logo of his company. And she does something like that with him on camera. He's clearly uncomfortable watching her do that, looking at it in the monitor and being like, what the fuck? I think she's kind of unhinged, man. And this happened, it looks like on the 7th, October 7th, which doesn't help. And she made her statement about it on Twitter on the 9th. And it doesn't seem like she's been on the show since then. From what I can see, it looks like he's had John Iadarola and some of the other female talent. I don't know if they're just filling in or if he does that often. But I know she spends less time in the studio now. But it doesn't seem like she's been, since she said that she's not going to apologize, it seems like she hasn't been on. And it's possible that Cenk was the one who was saying she should apologize. Because again, even in this clip, he's the one who's trying to be more clarifying. He's trying to say, I don't know, we're not saying this about all Jewish people. And Ana says the same thing, to her credit. But for some reason, she just does this weird ass fucking gesture. And yeah, I don't know. If I saw myself do that, I would be like, what the fuck? I would be appalled. So there's something weird going on there. And yeah, I think it makes Cenk look bad. It makes them both look terrible. And honestly, it seems like he feels like he can't fire Ana, but she's throwing her weight around. She's trying to show that, she has a leverage because she's got the show with her take. She probably feels pretty good about the fact that she chased Jillian Michaels off her own show and then still, now it seems like she's in a position to take over the job. And she already felt like Cenk wasn't going to fire her. And so I think an apology, not for like anti-Semitism, but for unhinged behavior is kind of in order. I think she's kind of unhinged. And yeah, I think she makes Cenk look bad at this point. And it would be a chance for him to kind of start over with the network. I don't think he would necessarily take it in a more positive direction. But I do think Ana has been kind of dragging him along on her culture war narrative for a lot of it. I think Cenk would probably still want to play the role of like MAGA conciliatory and these weird sort of griftery projects he keeps doing. But at the same time, Ana has been the one who like really took this turn against trans people and like really just seemed to be dragging the network in a more reactionary direction because, as she said, she was taking in more right-wing content and news and whatever else. In my opinion, from the outside, that's what leads to this type of behavior. And it's the type of behavior that I wouldn't personally want around myself. And I hope she's all right. It doesn't seem normal to me. She seems off. And I don't think that this method of, leaning into the rage for content really goes anywhere good. I think it leads to bad places in the media and just bad things health-wise. And I hope she finds some way to chill the fuck out. But also, I think if Cenk fired her, we'd probably have to see her less, and I would appreciate that. So just to put a button on this, let me play for you real quick a clip from Larry Ellison, the person that she was talking about when she did that weird thing, because I want to be clear that this guy is a creep. Characterizing him as a greedy creep is accurate. But you'll also see from this video that there probably were other ways to caricature him. So watch this real quick and then I'll finish it up.
It's behavior. Because we're constantly watching and recording everything that's going on. Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on.
Ellison's vision is for AI to analyze data from this network of cameras in real time in an attempt to prevent crime.
So that's one of the guys who is going to be in charge of TikTok under the new deal that they are hammering out, where TikTok will essentially be partially sold to American investors, a board of American investors, including Larry Ellison and others, that will oversee the data of TikTok. What they will not control is the algorithm of TikTok. China and the company there will still control the intellectual property behind that algorithm, as well as the actual algorithm itself. But other things like terms of service and community guidelines, and probably what is done with data, how it's collected and what it's used for, will be controlled within the United States. You know, the concern being with TikTok previously that they were always talking about is what a crazy spy infrastructure it is. So the result of this deal will essentially be for that spy infrastructure to be owned by private businessmen in America, hand selected by Trump, basically. And that's also the nature of this deal that he wants to do with Gaza and Israel, which I do hope holds. I hope the ceasefire holds. Israel is probably the more likely party to violate it. There's some reporting that Trump did some arm twisting of Netanyahu behind the scenes, even though they're aligned with a lot of things. People have pointed out that Biden was just an actual Zionist, whereas Trump is more self-interested. And, you know, with this Nobel Prize that he wanted to win and didn't, and, you know, deals that he has in other places in the Middle East, it seems like he wanted to get this deal done. I think probably the timing is because of that Nobel Prize. So he probably doesn't care what happens after this point. But the nature of the deal in terms of who controls Palestine after this is that there will be an international board of people that will be chaired by Trump that will make decisions, and I guess that's the structure through which he imagines that Palestine will be broken up into pieces and then sold off to investors. So there are factions in Palestine that are speaking against that, and the fact that any structure that will take governance of Palestine outside of Palestine is a non-starter. So we'll see how much room they have or what the implementation structure is for this when it happens. And what I imagine will happen from here, given that the ceasefire holds, which it's entirely possible, like I said, that it won't. But given that it does, what it looks like they want to do here is use this board of essentially investors in Gaza and this board of investors of TikTok to control the flow of information that happens from this point and use that as leverage to essentially shape the outcome of how Gaza is divided up so that there's not outside agitation against that. So it's definitely important to keep speaking about this even if the ceasefire takes hold, and specifically to talk about the details of how this deal of how Palestine is going to be governed. This board that is going to be chaired by Trump supposedly is also tasked with training a government to govern Palestine, etc. So that's the type of architecture that's going to be taking place if this deal goes on, and they're betting on the fact that they can control the flow of information enough to make it happen. So expect that TikTok deal to go through soon so they can ram this through. They're ramming through all kinds of things to try to rig the deck in their favor, and it's not looking good at the moment. I suspect though that this fervent pace will lead to some weaknesses, particularly on the issue of Israel and Gaza, and I think that there's still agitation to be done to make sure that the people of Palestine that are now returning to their destroyed homes have the right to self-determination going forward. Pressure getting pressed, do you feel it now? What even happens next, I don't really know. Voice carries less, can you hear me now? Soon as I get blessed, time's running out. Pressure getting pressed. Pressure getting pressed. Feel the pressure getting pressed. Yeah. Pressure, do you feel it now? I'm just saying this.